pictures that are out there of an entire hallway or parts of the house burned up, and they will open the bedroom door and there's not even like a lick of smoke in that bedroom. Again, very important, keeping your door closed at night, especially when you're sleeping, keep the fire spread. That work?
It does, yeah, thanks. It's basically, it's like just cutting off the food supply, the air supply, right? And it goes elsewhere.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
What is the rule, the law, whatever, on burning brush when it's not in a burn ban?
So a lot of times it comes down to the smoke, and if the smoke is a nuisance, that's where when like if you have a neighbor or somebody that's burning and the smoke is a nuisance, then we will come out and address it. So a lot of times that's where the problem arises. Because burning brush is one thing, but when we start adding leaves and other stuff, then it produces a lot of smoke and now it becomes a nuisance to the neighbor.
Yeah.
So I don't have the exact rules with me.
Okay. Well, I haven't been busted yet, but I know some. I try to be considerate.
Yes, and again, when we come out, we try not to write tickets. We try to inform the public about it. But like I said, the biggest thing is having communication with your neighbors. And that way, if there is a problem, maybe they come to you first instead of calling on.
Well, that's what I always tell them. If you got a problem with me, tell me before you do anything else. And if I can't do it, I'll drive you nuts too. Thank you.
I think Gary had a question.
I do. What neighborhoods are those houses being broken into, catching on fire? We have several empty units in my neighborhood. Unfortunately, we've had none of those issues. I just want to kind of keep an eye on that diligently.
So again, in District 3, it's kind of around here.
It's everywhere.
Unfortunately, if the house is boarded up, we still assume that it is on fire, that there's somebody in it.
Right.
So, rhyme or reason, but the spotters are going to find a way to get into a boarded up.
There's a brand new one that's just been boarded up, George Washington Boulevard in Mount Vernon, on your radar.
Oh, it's on the radar.
Oh, I go past it all the time too.
Yeah, I
don't
drive
want
by it
them-
every
Yeah,
day.
I don't want them to watch it too,
Yeah. Yeah, that's.
because it's got lots of trees around it. If it goes up, the neighborhood's going.
Just like the big one on Lincoln on curve too. That's been boarded up long too.
And it's gonna get worse because it's starting to cool off at night. And they'll light fires on a wood floor. And then wonder why. it caught on fire.
plastic bucket.
Yeah, South Broadway gets a ton of that stuff, especially cold season coming up.
And I'm on a roll, any more questions?
Yeah.
Keep up the good work.
Nick, we have something these.
Officer Jensen,
We'll back you for a raise.
Floor's yours, sir.
Hey, thank you. Awesome. So just a couple of things. My team, we've been real busy and coming in early in the morning, reference to the Textron strike. So we've been working that, trying to make sure that we keep the peace on both sides and just make sure nothing crazy happens. So we've been spending a lot of time doing that. We're hoping that obviously things get resolved fairly quickly so we can go back to, focusing our energies elsewhere. But with that being said, we've still been able to address some issues and concerns in the neighborhoods. We had a few robberies on South Side, a few on East, and then a few up North, and we believe they were all tied together. With the help of the businesses, some citizens, and then several different specialty units and patrol officers, we were able to identify the suspect, locate him and with evidence, get him arrested, and those cases are being presented and charged this week. So once again, I I reiterate that Wichita Police Department is one of the highest clearance rates in the country. We have a good force that really works together, shares information, and it's also the help of the citizens that, pass on information and help us with those investigations. So we're very grateful and appreciative of that. Our training officers in the field right now have one more week of the third phase. They will go to fourth phase, which is 2 weeks, and then they're going to be out on their own. So we're super excited to get them on their own, to be able to, just bolster the number of officers on the streets and plug some holes that we have. And then the officers in the academy are still going strong, still looking good, and hopefully we'll, get those guys out shortly and be able to once again continue to give us the numbers that we need in order to be able to address all the different issues and concerns. And then statistically, the thing that we're still seeing is we're still seeing the Kia and Hyundai thefts. They're not nearly as high as they were a little while ago, but once again, we're still seeing them. If you have that kind of vehicle, I would strongly suggest if you can garage it. If you can get a club or some type of visible security thing for it, that deters them, because it's the ones that are just sitting out. They access very quickly. It seems like they just like to joyride in them for a night or two, and do whatever, and then just abandon them, because we'll find them in various neighborhoods just abandoned with minimal damage. They're not stripped, they're not like cut up. It's just the steering column that has been torn apart to give them access to be able to steal it. So just some words there, but that's really all I have. Are there any questions?
The dash.
What kind of vehicle was that?
They're Hyundai and Kias.
Okay, I'm good. I have one more question.
Yes.
What about traffic stops? When will the new officers get on traffic control?
So you broke up a little bit. The question is, will they do traffic stops?
When will the new officers get on traffic control, or when will officers get more involved in traffic control?
So patrol officers, that is very dependent on call load. A lot of the time they're going call to call, and unfortunately, due to that, they're not able to be proactive and do traffic stops. We do have a traffic unit that focuses on traffic complaints and traffic stops, citing, doing all of those things. But if the time slows down or officers have time, that's when they're out there and they are conducting those traffic stops.
Any more questions from the DAP before we go to the public?
On the car thefts, the Kias and whatnot, are the ones that are being stolen, is there a catalytic converter theft?
On those vehicles, there's not. The ones that we have seen, the steering column will be torn apart because that gives them access to the electrical. And then sometimes there's some minor exterior damage where it looks like maybe they hit something, ran into something else. Nothing like severe or major, just some scrapes and scuffs is what we've seen. There are a few random cases where there is more severe damage, but that's not the norm.
Well, in the neighborhood that we're in, we're receiving quite a bit of catalytic converter theft.
And where's that at, sir?
That's at Hilltop Manor.
Okay. I can't speak for that. That's, I work down on the South Patrol, and I stop at, I don't go any further east than 135. But I will pass that information along to the officer that is over that area.
Thank you.
Yes.
I got a question. The, I don't know what you call it, the crowds that were hitting the Quick Trips and Quick Shops after the bars closed, are they still doing that? Where 15, 20 of them go in and just rip the store off big time? I know they hit 5 or 6 Quick Trips and Quick Shop in there, and I hadn't heard any more about it.
We have worked with the Quick Trips and the different gas stations where a lot of them will shut down for about an hour right as the bars are closing. So when these groups of people have come around now, the lights are off, the doors are shut, they don't let anybody in for that hour. And that has really disseminated everything. And I have not heard of the issue continuing since we've been able to work with the gas stations on that.
Okay. I hadn't heard any more about it for a while, so, and I knew they were closing up. So I had to take care of it.
Yep.
You're doing a good job. Keep it up.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
May I comment?
All right, thank you, officer.
Absolutely, thank you.
If nobody converter thefts are still a big issue, it just proves that drug people are dumber than you think, because the value of them has dropped significantly. And second of all, the Hyundai Kia thing, there are cars that do and don't have like a built-in validator or security system. The thieves know which ones, the ones that don't are easy to steal, the others aren't. So, right now, my next door neighbor works for Progressive and they won't even insure them. What it's worth.
Yep.
We've got Patrol East updates that I got.
I'm sorry?
Patrol East updates.
Oh, excuse me, I didn't hear you. You mentioned it.
Patrol East Community Policing continues to conduct special assignments targeting retail theft. Last month, they conducted an undercover retail theft assignment with local businesses and arrested 2 females for retail theft. Additionally, intel was learned of a potential retail theft ringleader, and CP is continuing to develop, community policing is continuing to develop leads to arrest her. Lastly, the Patrol East Community Policing is conducting another undercover assignment assisting another local retail theft store within them. Patrol East Community Policing has been monitoring the Textron strike, which is occurring on North Greenwich and North Webb. Only 1 arrest has been made for violations of city ordinance. Patrol East will be assisting Patrol West with the open house of the new water treatment facility on Friday. And with Halloween coming up, operation plan is currently in the works for the College Hill area. Crime stats for the district are only up 2% for Part 1 violent crimes, and Part 1 property crimes are down by 5%. These statistics show there isn't a sharp increase, so for generalities, crime is staying pretty even or in a downward trend.
Positive news.
Yes. Patrol East is our neighborhood, correct?
All right, Mr. Chair, if I may, point of privilege real quick. I'd like to introduce our mayor has joined us tonight here. She came down south, so this is the first NAB meeting. Is this the first time at the Water Center as well?
Not as an elected, yes, but I moved to the water.
All right, well, I thank you for coming down. And just one more thing real quick. I hate to correct my colleague here, but it's Greenwich, not Greenwich. I'm sorry.
It's actually Greenwich if you go all the way back to the origins of the word. I'll let all of New York know they're wrong.
Yes. Mr. Chair, floor is yours, you can say.
So back to order, we have Robin from Worcester Public Library today for library.
All right, so last month when I was here, we talked about auto renewals and how we were about to initiate those. We did, and it's been about 3 weeks now. It's going pretty well. We've noticed a little bit of I guess wonkiness when it comes to the notifications, so we're still, working with our tech team on that. But it's just when any eligible materials are coming due, our software looks to see if we can, renew them, and if there's not a hold, we do. And the only, one of the only materials that does not renew, at all is interlibrary loans, which come from outside of our system. And then if you have any questions or comments, our user experience team is looking for those. So you can either call 316-261-8500 or just speak with staff member the next time you visit the library. And a big event at the Advanced Learning Library is coming up, DIY Day on November 2nd. It's going to bring together makers, inventors, and creatives from across the community to highlight their unique projects and creations. And it's also an opportunity for the library to showcase its makerspace technology and maker equipment, including the cry cut machine and our new sewing machines. And there's going to be live music, food trucks, and more. Visit us from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Advanced Learning Library. Walters hosted another all ages game night yesterday evening, and the next is planned for Tuesday, November 5th from 4:30 to 6:30. This Thursday, October 3rd, so tomorrow, we're having a make and take craft where you can craft a silly spider web for ages 4 to 11. It's a drop-in program from 1 to 5, and all materials are provided. And we also have a family story time every Tuesday this October from 11:30 to 12, where children develop literacy skills through active listening, singing, and movement. We'll also have another community craft circle session for ages 15 and up from 4:30 to 6:30 next Tuesday, October 8th. It's come and go, and we encourage you to bring whatever project you're working on or make use of our small stash projects. On the same day, October 8th, a little bit earlier from 2 to 4, we're having an iPhone Basics class. So you can bring your iPad or iPhone, learn how to use the operating system. And then in October, lastly, we will have our Docking Top Promoting Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It'll be the 22nd from 5 to 6:45. We're showing the film Private Violence, in which we will explore a simple but deeply disturbing fact of American life. The most dangerous place for a woman in America is her own home. We'll have a representative from the Wichita Family Crisis Center there to answer questions and lead a short discussion after the film concludes.
On the crochet hooks and everything you guys have on
Yes.
site, do you take donations of crochet hooks and stuff?
Yeah.
Good.
Tired of that?
I'm all about.
They almost went in the trash this week, so I said save them.
Give her your yarn.
No, I don't, I knit, I never have crocheted, these were inherited.
Grandmother-in-law sure did.
Question from the public.
All right, well, thank you, Robin.
That's how long it took me to forget.
Hi, Robin.
Thank you.
Moving to public agenda, we do not have any public agenda scheduled today. So now we are all agenda items. If we have anyone from the public that has not been able to speak on anything that was listed today, please come up and state your name and address. You will have time to speak on
We're 555 floor. What motions do we have to go through to up the speed limit on Broadway to more coincide with the actual speed that's on Broadway? They got 30-mile-an-hour speed. They ain't nobody does 30 mile an hour. City buses don't, fire departments don't, the cops don't. But I get a ticket for running 36 and they're passing me. And that needs to be changed. I'm not arguing the ticket, but
You're the only one they can
it, but I travel Broadway all the time. Look at hydraulic, basically same roads. They're 40 mile an hour over there. West Street, excuse me, Seneca's a lot of 40 mile an hour in the same type of area. So we need to up that a little bit. it changes to 40 once, and there's no sign till you get over the viaduct there on the bridge, over the railroad tracks.
Okay,
The railroad bridge goes up to 40, and then 45 and 47.
so we're talking south of 47.
No, we're
It
talking,
goes all the way to.
we're talking from downtown
all the way down.
to south of 31st Street.
I'm sorry.
Long about Harry, Mount Vernon, it should increase to 35. And then when you get past John McVick Bridge, it should go to 40.
I agree with that. Thank you, sir.
We'll look into that and we'll see. I got your email here, so I'll run that by our public works and see what the process is.
Yeah, and like I say, if you go over there and you do 30 mile an hour, you're a road hazard.
Absolutely.
South Wichita, right?
Yeah.
Is that one of the things where they're gonna spring them warrants on you?
We do an education piece first, we try anyways, right? Thanks, Rich, I appreciate it.
Yep.
Joe. I'd like to tag on to that. I think that's a good idea. I also would like to stress, quit running yellow signals.
Yeah.
Crossing. I've done it and I realized it, how dangerous it is. I'm to the point now, I slow down when I see a yellow and stop, and people pass me and it's red when they go through. It's no wonder we have accidents. We've got to educate people. When it's yellow, it's time to consider stopping.
It took you 81 years till you started to slow down when you saw yellow.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Anyone
Is
else?
somebody else on the public agenda? No? Mayor, were you wanting to speak on the public agenda?
Carol, how's this?
Oh, thank you.
First and foremost, thank you very much for the opportunity to stop by. I just want to say first and foremost, thank you for serving on the District Advisory Board. I know it's a volunteer service, but your voice is heard, and that's how Councilmember Hoheisel is able to make better decisions when he has his board advising him, and when community members choose to come to a DAB and voice your opinions, because then Councilmember Hoheisel can really represent District 3. But at the same time, he also represents the entire city. So I'm really grateful to serve as the 103rd mayor, but I also have 6 mini mayors, and Councilmember Hoheisel is the mini mayor for District number 3. And I'm really grateful to serve alongside you, Mike. I'm just really excited about the opportunities that Wichita has. I know we have lots of challenges, including the things like truly about respect of sharing the road. You're not the first person that has talked about running red lights, about causing accidents, and it really boils down to respect. When we're on the road, we're sharing it, and even if you think you can, you're not going to cause any harm to yourself, you may be causing harm to somebody else. And so the reality is, how do we get that message across about respect? It's really the foundational principle that I think that we're all trying to share in our own homes, share within council, but really share in community. And so we need your help. We need your help in sharing, even when you speak up about it. We are all going to be mindful now, even when we're driving tonight, about that yellow light that we see. And the more we talk about it, even amongst our own friends, our own families, it does make a difference. So over the last 9 months, I've had the opportunity to really work with the council members and the city staff to help make Wichita better. But we have many challenges, and again, we need your help. And so I'm really looking forward to more people coming to council meetings. Over the last 9 months, we've changed some things at council meetings where we now have 4 evening time meetings a year, so 1 per quarter. So the next evening meeting, write it down, Tuesday, November 19th at 6 p.m. And I hope that you will show up and come and voice your opinion. The second thing that we've done that's different at city council meetings is that the public agenda does not require you to submit your request. Now it's only 24 hours. It used to be 2 weeks.
1 week.
Yeah, 7 days.
So now it's 24 hours. But again, we have 5 slots. So if only one person signed up, there are 4 spots left. So you can show up to a city council meeting and take one of the 4 spots that's left. So really, it's increasing community engagement and truly communication two-way street. So, and really increasing transparency as well. Our agendas are given to us as a council and also posted on our website either by Thursday night or Friday morning. So the Friday 11 a.m. meeting is called our agenda review meeting. And there's gonna be a nice little change coming where you'll get to see 2 weeks in advance the proposed agenda for 2 weeks in advance while we talk about the agenda that's about to happen in 1 week. So that will give you even an opportunity to say, oh, in 2 weeks, we're gonna talk about traffic enforcement. And then you can prepare a little bit more in advance. So we're really trying to be a better listener to our community and experiment. Our nighttime meetings have been fairly well attended, but we want more participation. Really, we're still focused on the community survey. The community survey that went out in the fall of last year, the results came out in January of this year. And that's that big old chart that you've seen that has the color-coded survey. And the area that we're really focusing a lot of our energy is the magenta area, which is high importance, but you see it as low quality. So an area where you really think we should do a better job at. And the 3 that come to the top are crime, streets, and economic development. So jobs. The 4th one is not in that survey, but we hear it from everyone we come across, and that is our neighbors who are facing homelessness. And so this afternoon, Member Hoheisel, along with several other council individuals who represent nonprofits, churches, groups that are just wanting to help with this homelessness challenge that we have, and see how we can all work together at the city's new multi-agency center. So segue into the emergency winter shelter, which is the first piece of that multi-agency center. That piece will open up by November 28th. And we have a request for proposals out until Friday for someone to operate the emergency winter shelter from November 28th to March 31st. And again, the big takeaway is emergency winter sheltering. So it will be open 24/7, where we will take people who are facing homelessness. We just don't want people to, again, suffer from the cold, bitter winter that we can face here in Kansas. And so it will be in one location, and it's kind of like our mini trial for the multi-agency center, because it is going to be open just like last year's winter shelter 24/7. We want more of our partners in the community to come into this space and really connect with the individuals so that maybe they can come into a transitional housing offered by Union Rescue Mission, offered by Humankind, offered by Salvation Army. And then they can move from the emergency winter shelter to that transitional housing or that program. With the eventual goal, really, the multi-agency center's goal is to move people from emergency sheltering to independent housing. But it's a spectrum. You can't just come from here to here. So therefore, we need to help people connect to the different resources. And I'm so grateful that 110 people said, I want to be part of the solution in some way. So our community is working together. When it comes to crime, Councilmember Hoheisel was the second in line to have a unity in the community rally for peace. We walked in Plainview, tried to connect people to the resources that are available in community so that our young people know that they're not at it alone, and that families know that there are also resources out there for them. And so we did a unity in the community in District 1, District 3, and just recently District 6.
The next one in line will be District 4, but we'll do them and not just once. We want this to be a regular occurrence where we're really united together and really rallying for peace as peacemakers. Then the second one is the streets. Just a reminder, please report those potholes for us. Instead of getting mad that you're running over a pothole, help us identify where it's at, because the city Public Works Department does a superb job. They fill the pothole within 24 to 48 hours. And so again, it's on your phone, reported, wichita.gov. I think there's also a phone number. So there are opportunities for you to be part of the reporting and then the solution. And last but not least, economic development. I'm really excited that the downtown core is seeing a lot of movement. In the month of May, we broke ground on the new biomedical center, which is a collaboration between two major universities, Wichita State and University of Kansas, coming together to help us with what we need most, healthcare workers. This is really a multi-pronged approach when it comes to the health and well-being of our community. We need the talent, the workforce, and so educators are helping us with training those healthcare workers. The county is helping with expanding their CommCare services. That is another piece to this puzzle. The state is also helping with a state mental health hospital, which will be located in Southwest Wichita, just south of the YMCA. And then the last piece is us, the multi-agency center, the connector, so that individuals can get triaged with what they're facing as a challenge, and then get connected to the right nonprofit that can help them move along, again, towards the idea that they can be empowered and really help themselves become the individuals that they are meant to be. So thank you all very much. And I really appreciate that all of you are in this space, chose to give up your time to really help make the city a better place and help Councilmember Hoheisel make better decisions for all of us. Thank you.
Yeah. Don't mind. And I'll direct you and Mike. One of the top stories.
She gets paid twice what I get paid. All the questions go over there, Mike.
One of the top stories in the news yesterday was the possibility of losing our distribution center for the mail. It's going to Kansas City, Missouri, because they're trying to cut funding, save money for the US Postal Office. Are they obligated, or do they cordially inform the city when they're gonna make major changes like that, so you can talk to our congressman about possibility of not losing it?
I have not been contacted, so I will let Mike take that one.
See, I get the big bucks now. Just to be straight honest, dealing with the post office and dealing with the railroads is like dealing with the mafia.
Oh, my God.
They have the power. They know it. They don't necessarily show us the care that we have. So we'll look into that and we'll contact Senator Moran's office, because they do top quality customer service. We talked about it earlier, some issues we had with the mailboxes going to the corners. We did talk to Moran's office about that. They did launch a congressional inquiry into it, because it seems like Kansas actually had a higher percentage, or our mail district actually had a way higher percentage than any of the other ones. So they are looking into that. So if something like that's getting momentum, we'll be in contact with Senator Moran's office. But yeah, as far as the post office itself, I mean, they're not even like an official branch of the government anymore. They're their own like corporation. So.
But they have a committee that oversees it.
Yeah, well, Congress.
Thank you.
Have you been following the news on that? They can't get the mail out down here. That's the problem. They're not having that problem up in Kansas City. Don't know why, but so that's where all this is coming from.
2 years ago, I was at the post office almost every week because of my mail service. I haven't been there in almost 9 months, because whatever they did, they hired the right people for our district or for our neighborhood, because everything is, it's iffy. One day you get it at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning because it's a relief route and somebody's being trained. You may get it at 5 o'clock the next day, so, but it gets there. I was
Okay.
finding things in other people's mailboxes. Unfortunately, we have a neighborhood where if it comes somebody wrong, they'll walk it down and give it to us and vice versa. So I haven't had any major complaints with the post offices in general, but I don't want them to do anything to screw that up. Thank you.
Kansas City has the same problem. I sent 5 packages or 5 items in August. They still have not arrived. So it's nationwide.
Notification on Tuesday of last week that we had a package coming, we finally got it Friday.
Yeah.
We did get it.
Can't blame the city for that.
It's
Mail checks in for my bills and 2 days later I get a notification they posted my pay. I don't get it. Right. On the mail thing, if you gotta have a sign out in front of your house that says you have a private well, seems to me like you ought to have a sign out that says you have a buried electric fence for your dogs. Because up here, the dogs running wild are really not. And well, fortunately or unfortunately, I live on a golf course, these people let their dogs out, the golfer steps in the yard, dog will go for them. You know, they don't know. They're out on the other side of the house, and they hear somebody in the yard, there they go. Got 2 Great Danes across the street and three dogs next door, which I think is one more than one allows, but whatever. Yeah,
Not anymore.
Huh?
Not anymore. We did.
you have to
Take
figure
that
out.
to allow for it. Yeah.
Three, okay, well, that's good. My wife would be nice to know that now she's dead. I made her keep her 3 inside. Yeah, that's. You think the post office would, somebody would know where those dogs are, have their shock collars on them, are actually gonna stay in the yard? Not go out to the mailbox.
There might even be one on the books and you just never enforce it. So I'll look into that and see what we have here.
And the next question is, we passed this ordinance to get all these people from sleeping in public places. How many of them are more of them are gonna be breaking into vacant buildings and setting them on fire in the winter? You know, that's maybe an unintended consequence you might want to at least take into consideration.
Appreciate that.
I'm not telling you how to run the business.
You're here to advise, right?
Yeah, just, you know, things that creep in my creepy mind.
City council meeting, where's it located?
Sure. Our city council meetings are held at City Hall at 455 North Main Street. It's the onyx looking building at Main and Central. And it's every Tuesday at 9 a.m. So every council meeting, it's consistently. The first 3 Tuesdays are council meetings, regular council meetings. The 4th Tuesday is a workshop. So in those situations, all we do is pass a consent agenda, and then we go straight into a workshop, which basically means staff will present something more in depth and ask for our feedback. And then eventually at some point they come back, whether with an ordinance or some recommendations. The upcoming October workshop on the 4th Tuesday of this month will be about the public art dollars. Public art dollars that are spent when we build something new or renovate something. There are public art dollars that can be allocated, And so we're gonna have an in-depth workshop regarding public art.
So the evening ones will be there as well.
Yes, same place for the evening one on November 19th.
What time is that evening?
November 19th at 6 p.m. at City Hall. And then what I just passed out, I don't know if you've already received this, but you can pass it to somebody else. I just want to say thank you on the behalf of Wichita Public Works. I know it's difficult. I know the drought is inconvenient, but water is our most precious resource and we all equally need it. And so right now with the Cheney Reservoir not getting enough water, water conservation has to be top of mind. Even if we had tons and tons of water come to Cheney, I just want people to be mindful that we all share this resource, all of us. And so conservation has to be also part of our moving forward practice. And so, as you know, we have restrictions on when you can water, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, no watering, outdoor watering, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And for those that have wells, thank you for also trying in helping with water conservation too. I know that you have your own well and You could do whatever you'd like with it. But as you know, between the hours of 10 a.m. and 8 p.m., water evaporation is at its highest. So whether you have your own well or you use city water, it's actually not the most effective time to utilize water outdoors. And so we just asked you to be mindful. And so SaveWichitaWater.com is the website where you can monitor how high Cheney Lake is, as well as some other tips regarding water conservation.
You need to put out and get out to the people that water their lawns, that watering it 2 or 3 or 4 times a week doesn't help the root system. I think it was Johnson's was talking about if it gets a good watering once a month, your root system will grow and it will stay green all month long. Give it a good watering once a month. But that doesn't get out to people. I got people in my neighborhood think I gotta water every day. They're on well. And it's you can't get it through to them that they're not doing their lawn the favor.
I have something to add to that. Gas company came in, tore up my whole front yard right after you said not to do the watering. And they planted seed. I have not watered once, but I have the beautifulest greenish yard you can see because of the rain we've had. So what we've had will take care of what we have if people will just pay attention and let it happen.
My yard's green and I never water it.
Same here. I wouldn't have stopped growing, right?
Well, I live with a sandy soil and it percolates really fast. My neighbor chewed me out because I was watering it at night and he was out there in the dark and got wet. So I kind of cut it back. I left the sprinklers off for about 4 days and there was places in my lawn starting to turn brown.
It depends on the kind of grass you're growing.
You what?
Depends on the kind of grass you're growing.
Yeah. Well, I have some native grass and I have some fescue.
I've got some brown spots and I got some
Yeah.
green.
Thick and tall. Turn the sprinklers back on in 2 days, have green grass again.
Buffalo turn ground, get a little water and it just screams right back.
Yeah, buffalo, like that's what I'm looking for.
The only bad thing about the drought is you can't seed like we normally do in the fall because you need to keep that damp. And so we're gonna have to have good spring.
Have we ever accessed the El Dorado?
So
Good question.
there are many answers at SaveWichitaWater.com. We've had multiple ideas that community has suggested, such as dredging Cheney, such as bringing water from El Dorado. One thing that should be of note, El Dorado has water rights for their community.
Right.
And so that's number one. Number two, the distance between El Dorado and Wichita and that infrastructure and the cost of that infrastructure is very high. One thing that I will say is Public Works is very mindful that we do need our own also system to make sure that we can withstand these droughts. Number one thing that we're doing is the city of Wichita and the leaders before me made this investment into a new water treatment plant. And we're gonna have a ribbon cutting ceremony on Friday. And this new water treatment plant will be able to treat not just Cheney above ground water, but also underground water from the Equus beds, which we have water rights to. And so this new water treatment plant will be able to better utilize both types of water systems to give us potable water. So back to the El Dorado idea, because of the high cost of this type of infrastructure, Public Works is looking at things like, are there any federal grants that can help us with recycling some of that water? As you know, Spirit Aerosystems has a purple pipe. And so what they do is that's wastewater in a way, that recycled water. And so we have to figure out how we can also have some recycled water ourselves, specifically from the new BNR facility. And maybe that infrastructure also will be costly, but the distance between the BNR and our water treatment is much lower than our water treatment in El Dorado Lake. So there are other opportunities, I think, that we are, again, above my knowledge, but I do know engineers are really working hard about how to utilize what we know is gonna be a very important resource moving
Well,
forward.
we're looking at all and
Yeah,
everything.
we are,
There's-
the
there's
engineers are.
Two things on El Dorado Lake. They said at full capacity, if Wichita was sucking water from El Dorado Lake, it wouldn't last a month. It would be down below levels that were applicable. If you go by El Dorado Lake now, it's the lowest that I've seen it in 25 years. So we'll be fighting the same battle again.
Do we impose the same restrictions on Derby
Do we impose water restrictions? Yes, so.
as they use our
we-
water?
Yes,
Okay.
so our water not only is provided to city of Wichita residents, but we have contracts with surrounding areas and they all have restrictions too.
And you were talking about the recycled water going at your purple pipe to Spirit. If you take the tour of the water treatment center, the effluent or whatever you want to call it, the discharge into the river is that far from potable water. Or potable, however you want to pronounce it. So, you know, it probably wouldn't cost as much as that treatment plant up there to bring it to that standard. And there's a lot of communities where there's not a lot of water where they actually do use that for a public water system.
Yeah, and that's one thing that they are looking at, like golf courses, you can use that with
Hey.
recycled water. Come on, I've done enough for golf, I don't need to hear anything else about golf.
It comes out of our pond.
Yeah. But yeah, like the mayor said, 30% of the water at Spirit is recycled water.
Yeah.
That they use in the process, so finding the areas that it would be acceptable, not for human consumption, but yeah, for mowing or watering lawns, especially commercial lawns, golf courses and whatnot, so yeah, they're looking at other options, maybe try and get a purple pipe out to Stryker or out to some of the other plants out there. Yeah, so.
I want to add that this week on Tuesday, if you watched the city council meeting, the council unanimously voted on 3 separate items regarding the repair and replacement of items to help with water, whether it was the Cheney Dam repairs, as well as ionization of the piping from the Equus beds. And so we're being intentional about the one silver lining to all of this drought is that it is so low at Cheney that we can make repairs from the bottom up. And so we won't have to obviously release some of that water. We can work on that, on those improvements right now. And so it is nearly $15 million of an investment. But again, we're mindful that this is truly an asset that everybody needs. And it doesn't matter which district, we all need that water. And we're trying to make intentional investments into water and the sewer system.
And so repair the dam while the water's this low, so yeah, the silver lining in the non-existent rain clouds there, right?
Might also mention, unless I'm wrong, Boeing/Spirit paid to have that pipe put in.
Yeah.
Right, so in case you're thinking we're wasting money on that, we're not.
Well, thank you all very much. I encourage you guys to go out to Open Streets ICT, another wonderful community building event, Sunday, October 13th. We will close down Douglas Street from Delano in District 4 all the way to College Hill in District number 1. And that area is really to encourage people to come together as a community, also enjoy some outdoor activities and really just be a Wichitan. So I want to give a big shout out to the Parks Department for being the main organizer of that. And again, more community building activities will allow us to have those conversations about not running red lights and have the conversation that, hey, you don't need to water your lawn so much. So let's be better neighbors, all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Today. And back to our agenda, we will be moving to new businesses and Wichita Climate and Actions Plan drafts.
Yeah, you guys switched to a very relevant topic, I think, for our presentation.
But click up there if you want it, or you can tell me if you prefer.
So why are you sitting down? We're gonna have to talk halfway through. That's fine, I can start us off. Well, hello, District 3 Advisory Board. My name's Ethan Kershaw. I'm the Sustainability Coordinator for the Public Works and Facilities Department. And your conversation about water is actually gonna cover some of the same topics we're gonna talk about today. So overall, we're gonna be talking about a draft climate action plan that we've been working on with the Sustainability Integration Board, another citizen advisory board. And all the districts have a representative this end of that. District 3's is Dr. Ibrahim Abdallah. He's actually one of our newest members, but he just got selected to be the chair of the Sustainability Board. So I encourage you to reach out to him if you have questions about this as well as myself and Seth. So I want to give you a little bit of background on kind of how this plan is being developed and what we've been working on. The Sustainability Integration Board was created back in 2021. So it's a fairly new board. You may or may not have interacted with them yet. That's their purpose and mission statement, and they've got representatives from every district. The mayor appoints someone as well, and then there are several other districts, or not district advisory boards. There's several other citizen advisory boards that send members. So the Bicycle Pedestrian Board, Transit Advisory Board. There's a few others as well, but they all get to send someone as well. It's the only board that pulls from other advisory boards, so it's set up as a little bit unique in that way. And so we've been working with them, and we've been working with city staff and with Wichita State's community engagement to start work on this draft plan and put together something that will be ready to kind of start getting public feedback on. So first off, I actually started in this position just a year ago now. So right when I started, I got to work on a few basically background research projects to kind of help with the development of this plan. So that was a climate risk and vulnerability assessment and a greenhouse gas inventory for the city's operations and for the community as a whole. And I'll kind of explain what each of those are a little bit more. So when you're looking at climate risk and vulnerability, I wanted to look specifically at what's happening in Wichita, kind of what threats we're going to be facing. As you know, right now we're facing a drought. So that's a very obvious one. We've got some issues with extreme heat this summer. We've seen events with flooding, severe storms, wind and tornadoes, of course, being located in the Midwest, hail, and then you also have to look at what vulnerable groups of communities are in your community as well. So for Wichita, I looked at some data from the EPA and the Environmental Protection Agency. They've identified different, those are shaded in the dark blue there. Those are different areas in the city, different census tracts that are facing different adverse challenges. So a lot of them are going to be related to income and rates of poverty, but in addition to that, they're also facing things like high energy costs. So they're paying a lot for electricity out of their monthly budget. Things like bad health ratings. So they're dealing with a lot of asthma, heart disease, low life expectancy. Those are all things that people in Wichita are facing at higher rates than other places in the nation. So for District 3, you can kind of see there's quite a bit of District 3 actually that's considered low income and disadvantaged by the EPA. So that does make different grant funding available to this area, but it does also kind of identify a problem that we're facing there. Something else that comes up for this area is proximity to traffic, and then wastewater discharge and things related to that. I know those are all things that have been identified by EPA, and this data is all publicly available as well. I'm happy to share the source for that as well, but the EPA has it posted on their website. Another study that's been done in the past in Wichita, this is a heat risk map that was put together by NASA actually in conjunction with the city of Wichita. This was put back together before I started, so I think it was released back in 2022. But this map kind of shows the areas that face high exposure and high vulnerability to heat. So that's those darkest purple areas. You can kind of see it's concentrated close-ish to downtown, that area. Those areas that often don't have a lot of tree cover, that are facing big changes in temperature, that they don't really cool down overnight very well. So people who maybe don't have as easy access to shelter are facing risks as well. And also you could be facing higher energy bills for your house if you're seeing a lot of heat. Something else that's very relevant right now with the drought, we could be looking at some changes in precipitation. These are all predictions from the National Climate Assessment that's done every few years. And so the latest projections show that depending on, so that intermediate scenario and very high scenario, those are based on the amount of greenhouse gas emissions we're seeing, things like carbon dioxide and methane. And it changes slightly how we might be seeing precipitation change. For our area, we're kind of in a unique area weather-wise. We could see things get a lot drier. We could also see things get a little bit wetter to the east of us. Generally, the eastern U.S. is a much wetter climate than the west, and we're kind of right on that borderline between those two climates. So right now, we're seeing maybe less precipitation in the summer months, but possibly more precipitation in the winter months. So, you know, fingers crossed for this winter that we see some more rain, but these also are also just projections, but things that we have to keep in mind if we're seeing more events like this drought right now, it happened something similarly 10 years ago as well. And being prepared for those situations is going to be really important. All right, so that was all the information we share on the climate risk and vulnerability assessment, kind of the outline for how we identify what threats we might be facing. And I'm also hoping to get more information from you guys as to what you see are some of the biggest threats to Wichita in terms of climate and also related social vulnerability in that way. The other main document that we're building off of from here is the greenhouse gas inventory. So I completed this work earlier this year, back in April, and there's a report online about it on our sustainability webpage on the city's website. And this covers both government operations and emissions, so that's the LGO, local government operations, and then community-wide emissions. These don't show the whole numbers, this is just percentages of the total emissions for each group. For city emissions, this is just looking at what we're producing from our city operations. So from the energy usage at our buildings, at our streetlights, fuel used by our vehicle fleets, and then as you can see, our solid waste facilities are the largest category there. That's from Berks landfill, and that's mostly due to methane from the decomposition of material there. That one's harder to reduce, but it is the biggest category for now there. And we're looking at different ways to try to reduce these things. So, for example, one thing we're doing to help reduce our electricity usage emissions is contracting with the Ponderosa Wind Farm in Oklahoma. We're purchasing wind electricity from them at a cheaper rate, and that is helping reduce our emissions in that way. I didn't end up factoring that in this emissions inventory just because it's a little bit older. It's from 2021 data, but that is what I had available to me at the time. And then for community-wide, you can see it's pretty evenly spread out between the biggest two categories of transportation and mobile sources, so cars and vehicles, residential energy use at home, and commercial energy use by commercial buildings. Those are based on how Evergy categorizes their account users and how our natural gas companies categorize their account users. So that is just purely based on energy usage. And then I'll pass it over to my colleague, who might introduce herself as well.
Hi, I'm Lisa Ortega. I'm the Senior Environmental Specialist for Public Works. So I've been working with Ethan on this, and I am the liaison for the Sustainability Integration Board. So if you do have any questions about them, feel free to ask me. We have meetings, and we'll get to that at the end if you would like to sit in on a meeting. I work mostly on air quality, but I like to be involved in all areas of sustainability. So when Ethan onboarded, we kind of started working on this with the Sustainability Board. And to show an overview and how we broke it down, this was kind of our vision statement that the Sustainability Board came up with when we were drafting this plan. And our goals and targets are to reduce emissions and adapt to a changing climate. And we're talking about both community emissions and local government. So we're not only trying to tell the community what to do or how to do it, we're also trying to set the standard with improving the city operations as well. And then we broke it down into 5 focus areas. Based on what the emissions, the greenhouse gas emissions were, and these were also categories done in a previous study that we also used in this plan. So we have buildings and homes, energy supply and distribution, natural resources, which means like green spaces and water, transportation and land use, and then waste management production. So you can see we kind of target some of those bigger areas of emissions. Okay, so starting off with buildings and homes, the overall kind of arching themes on a few of these goals. And so if you look into our climate action plan, there's a few goals, and then there's also ways and programs that we can help achieve these goals. But the overall idea is to try and reduce the amount of energy we're using, and then also try and reduce the energy burden that the community is feeling. So this is done in different ways for the city. It's done with energy efficiency improvements or LED lighting. Those are pretty easy, fast return on investments. And then we also have the community ones where we're having to try rebates. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of like different rebates that Evergy is doing. Evergy, so they do rebates and tax credits, and we have weatherization assistance. The city does weatherization assistance, and so does local nonprofits. Called, like one we're partnering with is called SCED, which is the South Central Kansas Economic Development District, and we actually received a grant for energy efficiency. So we're partnering with them to try and help more homes, more people who are low income and try and weatherize their home to reduce their energy burden. Yes.
When the city decides to build something new, do they contact you for information and input? Like the new police department that I harped about why they didn't have some solar panels?
So no, but we're trying to get to the point where we're kind of trying to incorporate sustainability into all new buildings. Right now it's really a cost issue. But right now with the way buildings are being built, they're already being built pretty efficiently because that's what's available currently. It's the older buildings that we have to worry about. Those are the ones that are creating more emissions and using more energy because they were built so long ago when these standards weren't in place. Yeah, so the whole point of homes and buildings, we're really focusing, like I said, on electricity reduction and then natural gas reduction as well. So there's a few different opportunities that the community has with different rebates, weatherizations, and this is all again to reduce their energy burden. Because as Ethan touched on the heat map, if we're gonna increase the heat, we're gonna see where at night you're gonna have to keep your AC running all night, whereas opposed to we used to be able to keep our windows open or something like that. So with that, you're gonna see those increased costs, and with everything going up, you know, people, especially low income people, are gonna bear the brunt of that burden. Thank you. Okay, and then along with energy supply and distribution, one of the things that Ethan touched about was wind energy. We're trying to make sure that we have different sources of renewable energy. We are looking at solar panels. We previously had applied for a grant that we didn't receive from the EPA, but one of it was to try and pilot to do a pilot for solar energy to see which buildings might be optimal for solar. And with the way Evergy is set up currently and regulations in the city, it makes more sense to put it on buildings that are already using high energy. Just because if you put it on the back end, basically it makes more sense for the solar panel to be installed where the energy will be used direct. But currently there are different rebates and tax credit opportunities for people who want to put solar panels on their homes, which really helps the return on investment and really lower their energy costs. But outside of renewable energy, we're trying to make sure that we have that improved grid resilience. As we're seeing maybe more sustainable options like electric vehicles, we need to make sure that our grid is sustainable and resilient enough to be able to handle that extra electricity use. If we're gonna lower gas vehicles, we need to make sure that what we're using is gonna be able to be supported by our current grid. And for city actions on this, we have, like I mentioned, trying to identify sites that would be optimal for solar, places that are using a lot of energy that would really benefit from solar panels, and then make sure that we secure backup power systems for emergency services. For community benefits, where the federal government has rebate and tax credit opportunities for renewable energy, and we're trying to make sure that these new industries have enough people we're trying to create basically more jobs as well and making sure that people are trained for them in this area. So we don't have a shortage of, if people want to put solar panels on there, that we don't have a shortage of people who can install them. So we don't see that cost rise here in this area as well. Okay. And then for natural resources and green spaces, this is kind of where we talk about the tree canopy again, which we brought up with the NASA heat study, trying to make sure that our tree canopy doesn't decline any further so we don't see those increase in heat in different areas of heat, and then making sure that we achieve 70% of the population that can access a green or blue space within 15 minutes. Make sure people have access to those parks, to those walkable areas in their community. And then that also helps the heat. And then increase the number of registered community gardens, just making sure we're increasing overall just our amount of green space in the city. For city actions, and then drought as well, making sure we're reducing both the city operations for water consumption in the community, and then reach water usage demand of 45% of total water supply. So for city actions, making sure we continue to provide those water rebates, conservation rebates, making sure we're implementing our tree canopy policy, which was passed earlier this year by council. So just making sure we're not losing any more trees and that we're able to continue to plant trees. It is a little bit more difficult right now in the drought because if you plant trees right now, they're not going to survive. So just making sure that when we can plant them again, that we are replacing the trees that we're taking down. And then ensure a stable water supply. So I know we talked a little bit about like El Dorado and stuff, but making sure that Cheney is stable and that we're not taking too much also from the ECHOS fund. And then for community opportunities and benefits is rebates for water conservation devices, making sure they have access to green spaces and food. And then save on energy costs from reduced urban heat. If you can reduce the heat in the city and the areas that feel the more heat, the lower the energy costs are gonna be. And then for transportation and land use, so we have making sure that this covers a few different areas. So we're talking about not only transportation, like public transportation, making sure we have those electric buses and that they're running routes that people are actually able to take. And that people need. So we're talking about maybe more routes to grocery stores and things like that. Increase the number of electric buses, and then also making sure that it's safe for people to walk and bike around if that's what they choose to do. Making sure we're trying to reduce the number of crashes and injury incidents in high traffic areas. So for city action, this means supporting pedestrian safe infrastructure, whether that's be putting more crosswalks, things like that. Identify sites and partnership for public EV chargers, making sure people have access to EV chargers if they choose to buy an EV. And then stabilizing the Wichita transit budget, meaning making sure that the transit budget has enough to help, especially those people in low-income areas where maybe they don't see the bus routes or bus comes as frequently. And then for community opportunities and benefits, we are making sure that everyone has accessible transportation. Whether you choose to ride your own vehicle, whether you choose to ride the bus, or whether you choose to walk or bike anywhere. And then making sure we have improved air quality. The less people that are riding around individual cars, the better the air quality is going to be for everyone. That means reduction in like different diseases like asthma. And then reduce traffic congestion as well. We don't have to get on the road on Kellogg at 5 p.m. and see it backed up all the way. So trying to reduce that as well. Okay, and then lastly, we have waste management and reduction. So as you guys saw on the graph before for the greenhouse gas emissions, the landfill was one of the biggest greenhouse gas emitters for city operations. Obviously, the city is not the only one who dumps there, everyone dumps there. So different ways to increase the amount of organic material being composted in Wichita, that means less of it ending up in the landfills. And then to reduce the number of single-use products entering landfills and the natural environment. Just trying to reduce the amount of garbage going in by trying to reduce the amount of garbage that is being created in general. For city actions, this could mean pilot direct residential yard waste collection and develop sustainable purchasing practices and policies. For community opportunities and benefits, this would mean preventing pollution caused by trash, maybe access to free composting, and saving money on disposal costs as well. If you're wanting to look into a few community resources regarding this plan or just in general, you'll be able to, on the next page, we'll have the city website where Ethan has been great and has been updating it on different resources, whether this be rebates from Evergy or from the federal government or local nonprofits that help with things like weatherization. And then we also have available tax credits and rebates and information from local universities. For our next steps with this plan, I encourage you all to really look through it, read through it, and then provide any feedback that you may have. We have a survey open now until the end of the year on our website, which will be on the next slide. This will give you opportunity to give feedback not only on the plan, but on what's affecting you in your community. Are you seeing high cost? Are you seeing maybe too much water being backed up by by not enough drainage? Different, whatever's affecting you in your community when it comes to different weather patterns and issues regarding or coming from climate. We want to hear about it. We want to know it needs to be integrated on this plan if it's not already a part of it. And then we did update recently our sustainable website, so we made sure we had those resources on there. The climate action plan is on there, and the survey is on there, so we have as much up-to-date information as we can. We have future SIB meetings. We meet the 4th Wednesday of every month, so the next meeting is going to be on the 23rd of this month, and it's at the Advanced Learning Library at 6:15 every month. So if you'd like to come, we always have time for public comment, and I know the Sustainability Board really appreciates when people come and talk about things that are important to them in their community. And then we will be at the Douglas Open Streets event. We'll be talking about a few different items. We'll be there with someone talking about drought, waste reduction, air quality, and the climate action plan. We have a few board members who will also be present talking about the climate action plan and that survey. And if you have any questions, concerns, comments, feel free to email us. Like I said, I'm Lisette, Ethan, we're both available for any questions you may have. And then this top one is the sustainability website hosted on the city's website, and then the bottom one and that QR code lead to the survey in case you guys can take it. We'd appreciate if you kind of spread it around your contact list as well. We try and get as much feedback as we can.
Yep, wichita.gov/sustainability, we got it nice and short there. And if you want to attend our sustainability board meetings online, we do a virtual option as well. Do you have the printed copies of the plan?
Yes.
Okay. I think that was it for our slideshow then. Do you guys have any questions over there?
Since you're heavy into climate issues, EVs and stuff like that. Many of you happen to see the documentary on Newsmax titled Revolt.
Not seen it.
Try to find it. Worth your time.
I had a question. If I could.
Volt electric. Has nothing to do with revolutions. It's all about the electric vehicle.
I'm sure you guys have like all thought about all the details of your plans, but you know, making sure that the trees, like you talked about the tree canopy policy, making sure the trees are going to be appropriate for, you know, this land. Instead of just throwing an elm in there and it's going to need, you know, maintenance, and then we're going to have cost issues there with the upkeep on the trees, and then they end up dying anyways. You know, even along the river and stuff, I see a lot of the trees are becoming unhealthy because there's not a lot of maintenance that have been kept up with them. Even in like District 3, in the neighborhoods, it's low income and they don't always have the funds to do proper tree maintenance either. So I don't know, I guess, you know, that's just all have to be
Yeah,
factored in
no,
there.
those are great points. And I will add that in the tree canopy policy, they put together a list of suggested trees and native trees that will do better in this climate. I know our forestry division in parks
Okay.
did a lot of work on that.
Okay. That's why I said, I figured,
But
but
no, that's a good point.
Yeah, we gotta look out for blight.
yeah.
Same thing I asked at the last meeting when something like this came up. Are we gonna educate the bike riders? I was walking down the sidewalk the other night, okay? Bike rider went past me and he called me everything but a white woman because I was on his sidewalk. And there, it was on Mount Vernon where there was a bike path. So we need to educate them that that is where they're supposed to be. They need license, they need to be educated, just do stop signs and everything, like everybody else. If they're gonna act like a car, they need to be licensed like a car.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah. We gotta keep all pedestrians and users of the sidewalk safe.
You'd like to agree with you.
Down alongside.
I was not happy, but you know.
Well, his hours of observation were not very good since you were away with him.
Well, it was dark and I was on the last 2 miles of my 5 mile, or I would have put him out in the street by myself, but you know.
I would die.
I was not pleased because I moved off the sidewalk for him and then he had the audacity to start calling me names and I was like,
I would think.
this is rude, wrong. So, but I think, you know, that's something that really needs to be considered, is they need to be educated.
Questions over here.
Oh, well, it's more of a statement than a question. But like from a youth perspective, I really appreciate you guys wanting to like make things more walkable or different types of transportation. Because that's the thing that a lot of us young people, like that's what we want to see, especially I know I'm a senior this year and a lot of people in my class, you know, they want to go out of state, they want to go somewhere else outside of Wichita. And a big thing has been like, how do we keep our youth, especially like our talented youth here in Wichita? And like the main thing that most people say, like, it's just plain old Wichita. And so I appreciate like advancements to making our community more sustainable, because I know that's what a lot of youth are passionate about. And I think, is Elizabeth on the sustainability integration?
She is not, but she comes to the meetings a lot.
Okay.
Elizabeth from ICT Trees.
No, from Married Youth Council. Is that the board that we have?
Oh, yes, yeah. So
Okay,
she,
okay.
yeah, I think she hasn't been able, but she was just appointed, basically, yeah.
I saw some of it. But I was gonna say, like if you guys wanted more of that youth perspective, we could have some conversations and like our marriage youth council meetings or things like that. And try to get that youth perspective, but I do appreciate that though, because that's what, like, if you want to keep us here, we like to see Wichita advancing and growing. And so it was more of like an appreciatory, like, I liked it.
Well, thank you. We appreciate those comments. I'm very passionate about sustainable transportation, especially making a more walkable community that's more accessible to all. Because when you have even wider sidewalks or anything, especially our aging population is able to walk or get to grocery stores quicker, especially as they're less able to maybe drive or feel less confident in driving.
It starts to feel more like an actual city than rather kind of, because Wichita's so spread out, starts to get that kind of like city vibe when you feel like you can actually walk to your destination. I'm done, sorry.
I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
I'd like to address your comment. You can take people out of Wichita and in 5 years, wherever they're at, it's the same thing. I drove a truck 48 states. I've lived in several different states. And I talked to people all over the country. They like Wichita. Wichita has a lot to offer. And look at the movie stars that come out of Wichita and they still come back here. Wichita's got a lot to offer, but I don't think they always have the best ways of getting that out there to the people.
I agree.
But there's tons of going on in Wichita all the time.
Yeah, I'm just gonna kind of pile on what you're saying about the trees. Our neighborhood, our trees are 80 years old. Every time the wind blows, we cringe. That's $5,000 boom, boom every time. And it's killing our corporation bad. Between that and just infrastructure collapse and wearing out, we can't keep up with it, and it's gonna be our detriment, I'm sure. I just want to throw that out. There's really a sadness I'm dealing with daily. So the wind blows, we can't stop it. We're in Kansas.
Yeah, it was a little wordy today, much.
Yeah, little tree costs $3,000 to have it removed. And we have hundreds.
Question. You mentioned that you wanted to achieve and maintain 70% of the city population having access to green spaces in 15 minutes. Is that by car or by foot?
I'm not sure.
I would have to look in, but I believe it's by car.
I was just curious.
Because I think, what is the current percentage?
It is under 7%. I think it's high 50s. That I think is in the draft percentage.
Any more questions from the data? Questions from the public? Well, thank you so much, Ethan and Liz. Before agendas, updates, issues, and reports.
All right, I will cede the beginning of the time to our interim director of parks, Reggie. He's a great guy. I love him to death. He's just been doing a lot of good work. So he's going to talk a little bit about Platt Park, some of the things going on at Platt Park. And then after that, we'll get to discuss what we talked about last time. If we go out for an RFP, what are the things that you guys would like to see included in that in regards to Platt Park? So Reggie.
So he's sucking me right up. Working on his brownie points there.
Hey, you got you, man.
A lot of park stuff going on in the district.
Yes, we're gonna keep them as happy as we can.
Just want to give a quick update. So it's good to see Maya here, who's our president of Youth Mayor.
Yeah, 2 mayors.
Yeah.
We had 2 mayors here today, guys.
So we want to give a quick update on some things that are taking place at Clap that we're working on from the park department, and then kind of talk a little bit about the RFP process and where we are with that and what the next steps are with that.
Speak up a little bit.
I'm sorry?
Raise your voice just a little bit.
All right, we can do that. So we're targeting opening up the playground in the early spring timeframe. We're on place for that. All of the equipment and everything is on site there for it now. Next step is looking at working at some of the pavement and things that are going in place that are there. We're starting on this winter. We're doing some of the artwork that's there. As the mayor mentioned earlier, a lot of the projects that we're doing now, we incorporated that art piece with that. So that's going to be included with that also. The dog park is going well. The fencing for most of that is up already. Looking at sidewalks for that, as well as working in trail works that's gonna be coming up in this fall. So it's working on tasks to get that up and going so we can have a lot of those amenities available here. And we're shooting for the springtime frame, we're getting a lot of those up and going, depending on the weather, maybe open up a lot sooner. So that's kind of a general update on that, and I know that Councilmember Hoheisel wanted to talk a little bit about CLAP, and, sorry, go ahead.
So you're not gonna get away from there yet. I
Okay.
live 3 houses from Clap Park.
Okay.
The first thing we were told, the first thing that I asked about was the parking lot. They said that'd be done first. Is that still gonna be done first? Because I was walking right past there and I see that big dirt area and I'm wondering if that is gonna be the parking lot.
It is, so we will have 30 parking spaces that will be there in that area as well, that's gonna be built out as part of that with the expansion.
They put in the sidewalk back that they took out?
Yeah, so part of that is once they get finished with it, that's gonna be part of the sidewalk that's gonna go back in, that's the, finish up the work that's gonna be done. So that's all part of the plan, once they roll out, so we can make sure that have that covered with it as well.
See, I didn't want to.
So we're anticipating to be able to get a lot of those things that were started on sooner. We're shooting for the spring time frame on the weather cooperation. Will be finishing a lot of that a lot sooner than what we anticipated. So things are moving along well with that. I know that you guys have noticed that we've had the event at the park, which has been there for the last couple of years. We're moving that over to the Plainview community there in the parking lot at Colvin. It worked out well. That's an in-service day that day, so we're able to use that parking lot. As part of that, we're going to block off the roadway where the turnabout is there. So we have a safe way for the kids to walk in and out this there and use the parking lot across from the school, as well as on the other side of the school on the west side, so they can actually come in there for that event and be safe and have an opportunity to do it. So
That's a candy crawl, right?
that's the candy crawl that's coming up, and that's on the 18th of October. Doing quite a few things there with the school and the partnership that's there, that is really involved and helped a lot with our supervisors on site there. We have an in-school program, an after-school and before-school program that we do there for Colvin. A big emphasis of that. We're getting a lot of the funding from our housing department, and that's able to be, those young people can participate at no cost. So that's something that we are able to provide. We can see the crime statistics show that young people supervise between their time after school, get into things that we don't necessarily want them to get involved in. So create environments where they can actually have something where they can do something safe and do something constructive doing that out of school. And the other thing that I know that Councilman Horizon wants to talk about a little bit is the actual clubhouse there and the next steps moving forward with that. So we are in the process of working on the RFP that's going to go out to the community to see what the utilization of that particular space will be. The big emphasis on it is going to be seeing what are the things that we bring in that are actually going to complement what we're doing there at the park. So we're not looking for someone to bring in something that's going to be a concept. We want someone who has some history delivering the service that will complement the park that's there and make it usable for the community. And part of that, Councilman Hoheisel is going to be involved in that. We're able to look at what we want to see included in that, getting feedback from you guys, and what those things look like. And then it goes out for people to respond to it. And then we'll have a committee that will actually review it and look at who's going to be best candidate moving forward and being able to use that space. And the big thing is we look at what's the path forward is how we can make sure that we get the best available option here for use that space and still have it available for the community to enjoy it. And I think the big piece that we want to emphasize as well is that we're not looking for a concept. We're looking for someone who can deliver service, have a track record of delivering service, and bring in something that will be complementary to what we have. Pass it off and see if there's any questions or anything else you have about the next steps.
You have some questions from that.
I'm sorry.
Okay, no questions from that. Question.
Is the property still being irrigated?
The space, we do have the same restrictions that we're putting in place with the water shortage that's there, so it does still get irrigated, but it is reduced schedule from what we would typically do.
It seems like every time I drive by, it looks just as nice and lush and green, as wonderful as it was.
It's the clover. It's the clover. It's the same thing in my yard. It looks green.
But I mean, it's
just the weeds and the clovers and
It's like it's a golf course.
The poison hemlock.
I go by Flat Park every night to the school, and they're doing a good job. on that parking lot that they're putting in. They're making good progress. I cannot complain at all about that. When they first started, I thought this is gonna be a long drawn out project, but they're doing it right. I used to be in the dirt work business. They're doing it right, and they're doing a good job, so they don't hear that enough.
Yes, we
Well, I
don't.
appreciate it, and that's one of the things that we want to make sure as we are moving forward with making changes at the park, that we want to make sure we do it right the first time around, so they can be an amenity that the community can enjoy, and we don't have to worry about as much maintenance with things that we didn't do up front. So we want to make sure we take advantage of the funding we have available now, going in and put something in that we do.
Well, I appreciate it, Reggie. Thank you for the update. Mr. Chair?
I don't want to hear this speak.
I don't either. I walk out on me too, please, brother.
Speed.
Good to see you, Rich. Yeah, so that leads us to, our part of the discussion here. I asked you guys to think about it after the last meeting. No big deal if you haven't come up with anything, but, if you have and you thought about it and you have some things that you'd like to see included in the RFP, like Reggie talked about for the clubhouse, now's the time to raise your hand and speak up.
I'm sure you got the phone calls or the emails from my neighbors, because when they found out I was on your advisory board, they expressed what they wanted to see there, which is they want to see it continue as is.
Green space? Well, this isn't regard,
The
the disc golf, okay.
Yes. Yes, they were adamant about the disc golf.
Was there anything in particular, was it Doug or was it somebody?
They wanted the guy that's there now.
Look.
They,
Just
they
pay
were-
there.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we should also be, I know Evergreen Park is no longer as it used to be, but it was once where it had a gym and a recognition place for students and kids and a study hall. I think that's what we're still doing, we're still developing this part. I think Evergreen is a great place to look at. And be like, well, they had this, I don't know if they still have the gym and stuff like that, but at one point it was all a really open space for the community to have. They also have a space for football, which we don't need here, I'm just saying, they have a lot of extra stuff that this park can probably get because of the land that we have.
I appreciate that. I mean, was it especially students or was it just community in the?
I think it was more community, Evergreen Park was,
Evergreen Park has a recreation.
yeah, recreation, that cloud music, I think at one point too.
They got a library recreation center, and they have the resource center there.
Yeah.
All through.
Yeah, so, and all on that same block, like,
Appreciate that, thank you.
This might be like semi off topic, but I would really like to see like when the park opens up, like just like a lot of advertisement for it. Especially like on social media. Because I feel like that's one thing that the city could utilize more, especially like for my age group.
Yeah.
I don't know if they need like a Gen Z social media person on there or something, but I don't know. I know the city has like a TikTok page or on their Instagram, on their Facebook, like not just Facebook, but like, I feel like the park could be utilized for, my age. Some kids my age have kids of their own, taking advantage of the resources that we have right in our district, especially if you have something so great in our district. I want to see it like everywhere. It's like
I
I
plan
can
on
post
that.
it on my
I plan on that, especially with the headache this thing's
Yes.
gotten to be. Yeah, I really want to push it, but it's gonna be a great amenity when it is open. And I've said this before, and it just rings true. Everybody should have a chance to be a child. And that's the focus of what we're doing out there on the playground now. I have a couple of nieces and nephews who are disabled, including one who's going to be in a wheelchair the rest of his life. And there's a really greedy, selfish part of me that can't wait to see him out there. And he had the ability to do this as well. So it's just something, we keep in mind, and how we treat people within the society and the community that we want. So, yeah, I can't wait to, if you drive by it, you can drive by it on here, you can pull into the parking lot, see it going up, they're right, the dirt's been moved. They have some of it walled off around there. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
say, I can't wait to use my younger siblings as an excuse to go there and
Right,
play.
right. Yeah, my little girl's 13 now, so I think she's too big, she's taller than I am, so. I'm not sure that, I still want her to get up there once or twice, just to say, yeah, well, some of us might be a little.
Mike, if you're not on one of the piece of equipment at the ribbon cutting, we're gonna have a problem.
Yeah.
Mike, you gotta get rid of this, get on the equipment.
That'll be great. Get stuck in the slide on the way down. That'll be great for us, I'm sure. Richard, Jesse, Janet, any of you guys wanna weigh in on any of this?
I have nothing.
Yeah, I don't have anything in particular. I mean, have been out to Clap Park a few times. I've gone out there with kids and the dog, walking around. It'll be really, really great when they get all of those sidewalks finished and connected. But as far as the clubhouse itself, I really do like the idea that Tony mentioned of like seeing if it would be possible to get, kind of a community rec center aspect, some sort of amenity in that regard, just to give people, a gathering space, somewhere that they can go and hang out, particularly young people. I think that's a great idea. I have also heard from friends that spend a lot of time playing disc golf out there that they have been very, very happy with the folks that are managing the clubhouse at present. So
I appreciate that, thank you.
I thought it was a little heavy-handed personally that Troy got axed for that RFP snafu. I think that's a bad message to people who may be interested in replacing him. But I don't know all the details. I hope that the process of getting a new parks director will be open, and that we'll have an opportunity to get an understanding of what their thoughts and feelings are about protecting and expanding Wichita's parkland. It just seems a little strange that Troy would be axed like that for something like this. But I think we all need to be vigilant and just, this was a community decision about what's going in to the park, and I don't think that's going to change, but we do need to be vigilant about that. And I know Mike is staying on top of it for us as well. That's all I have.
All right, thanks, Rich, I appreciate that. Any further discussion on this, Jerry?
I live across the street from Clett Park and have for almost 25 years. I've watched a lot of transitions. They used to have movies on the side of the building. Lots of people not camping out, but barbecuing and having such a great time for a long, long time. I'd really like to see that really brought back together tighter. Not just the process of the golf and this and that. There's a lot of activities we do still do. I know they have the track and field going on now too, and it's just a cool place. Keep it green space, flowers, trees, I'd be digging all that.
Appreciate that. I hear that a lot. Mike?
I've said my piece.
I got your notes. Don't worry about that, Mike. I appreciate it.
New subject?
What's that?
New subject?
Yeah.
Although I didn't want to do this, I didn't want to step on the fire department while they were here. This was an external battery for my phone, my crippled the battery life. I have 3 of these. Keep 2 of them charged up on my dining room table. Got up this morning, one of them was nicely all blowed up and stuff, at least it didn't catch fire. I've also have one of those small things you can jump your car with. Had one of those blow up too, so you might want to put them somewhere where they can't be a fire hazard.
Yeah, you're not lying. All right, a couple of things here real quick. There hasn't been a lot going on at city council. The mayor did give an update on probably the juiciest stuff here in the last month. Just some stuff regarding maintenance at out at Cheney, some of the water infrastructure stuff. So yeah, just it's finally we're at a point for a little bit that nothing big and controversial is going to come and hit us. Hold your breath, because we'll be right back to doing all that stuff here later, but just in the last month, there hasn't been a whole lot. I am meeting with, some county commissioners and some state legislators here in the next 2 weeks to talk about some changes that we could have on the state level regarding vacant houses. The current status is if they don't pay taxes for 5 years, then the state can come in and take their houses, essentially. It goes through the county puts it up for auction. If it's in good enough shape to do that. The issue with that is we have a number of people who inherit houses or they buy them and they sit on them and they do absolutely nothing for years. They fall behind on their taxes. They don't put any people on there. I drive by that one on George Washington and Mount Vernon every single day and I see the plywood, even trying to secure it, is pulled back.
And it was a pretty house.
Yeah, it's a nice house.
God, it was
And the person who inherited it, I don't know if they just don't wanna have absolutely anything to do with it. It blows my mind because of the price of homes now. Put it on the market, even if you're not gonna fix it up, other people will do that for you and you'll make a nice chunk of change right now.
They had some bad renters that destroyed it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure in the meantime too, it's.
Yeah, cause I saw all the trash outside of it and everything. So
Right. So it opens it up for people to break in, warming fires. If it was just people just trying to keep warm, that would be one issue. But a number of these houses end up turning into drug houses where they cook meth and whatnot. Spread it all through the neighborhood. So we gotta be vigilant about that. We gotta figure something out. So I am gonna meet with some of the state legislators and county commissioners. They have a housing committee on the state level that's looking at some of these issues. Some things in regards to landlords, some things in regards to tenants. So we're gonna push through some ideas or present some ideas that we hope they'll act on and help us solve this issue. So I'll get some updates if we get anything going from that. We talked about Clett Park. Debbie? How much did you raise total to pay off school lunches for kids in our district?
well, $1,280.
$1,280. Please give her a hand.
Partially mine, partially the people at Rusty Nail, they were paying $100 a piece to dunk people there, so that was kind of pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And one guy challenged me because he annoyed me, okay, and I told him he was going under the dunk bucket, and he said, no, I'm not. I said, how much is it gonna cost? He said, $40. I said, okay, let me get the bucket out and go around. I went around and he said, what if you don't get it? And I said, I've got it covered. I said, I've got a $50 bill in my pocket, no problem, you're getting under that. He told me at the end of the night, I got him under twice, and he says, you made it so fun just because you wasn't gonna let me get away with it. I said, exactly. The hardest part about it was giving the money to the schools, and I figured out a way, as you saw in my email.
Yeah.
I got a little bitter with people and told them that if they did not want the money, I would put it in gift cards and I'd go out on the street and just hand it out to people that looked like they needed money for groceries. And by the next morning, I had 7 responses. So I was able to get it all given away, but I did come up $500 short of doing all the schools in our district that needed it.
And so keep that in mind, and that might be a challenge for our DAP going forward. If that's something we wanna look at next year, try and make sure and pay off, because there's a lot of struggling families and a lot of kids who don't have to worry now about getting caught up in order to do something basic like eat a meal. And a lot of kids, that's the best meal they're gonna eat during the day, unfortunately. So yeah, challenge issue to DAP. If that's something we wanna look at next year, in the next couple of months, come up with some ideas. I'm willing to do anything myself. You wanna dunk me, you wanna shoot me with paintballs, whatever you guys wanna do, I'm game because it's going to a great cause.
And I still have the dunk bucket since I built it. It's taking up my garage, so.
So again, Debbie, thank you for your work on that.
Thank you. You helped a lot.
Yeah.
Had the mayor not gotten out of here before we got to
Yeah.
the end of this, I was gonna talk to her. She knew it.
You're pretty good at sneaking out.
She kept smiling at me. I'm like, yeah, you know I'm gonna come after you.
I am meeting with some members of the sustainability board Friday to discuss some things like increasing access to recycled water. Regardless of how you feel about climate change, global warming, whatever, the fact of the matter is something is going on with our water supply right now.
Sorry, I don't, before we change the page to this one, I think it's a great cause that we're raising money, but it also, since you're meeting with higher, people up there, I think that we should also bring, I don't know how much you could change that. I think when we put the word public school and it's public paying thing, it's government funded. I think that we are putting a lot of people in debt and difficultness when we have to. I mean, the only reason why they're paying is because of the income they put down. Why is it public school if we have to put down income regardless? People should go to school for free. People should go to school and eat. A citizen of the community should not go out there raise money for a school system that we pay tax to. Period. And the problem is that if she has to go work this hard to pay off debt for a school that it's already given money to, why are there any more people working harder than them when it should be given to anybody, whatever bracket you're at? And the fact that kids have to be in poverty and have to have debt on their behind for the next 12 years is concerning. And I think that that's something I feel like we should bring up. Is that
the federal grant would have taken care of it had I not. But what I wanted to see was for us to help. Our federal government's in trouble financially, so we keep sucking money out of it. It's really not there. They just, keep printing it. So if I can go in there and raise this money out of our pockets and pay it, then that grant can't pay until that money's used. And so
because the grant gets done every year. Now
Correct.
They changed that thing. It used to be lingering forever. But still, I mean, I'm saying it's just difficult to hear that someone in our community has to go work extra time harder when our government's job is to provide free public school and education and anything public when you put the word public in it. So then our system should be paying for that, whether your family is making more than 100,000 or less than 10,000.
Right.
I mean, there's no one that should be working harder than our government itself.
I hear you. I'll pass that on to Knock, our school board representative. Good guy, maybe sometime we'll try and get him in here. He's come and spoken at our district breakfast before, but,
I'll be emailing him this
Was that the younger
about
guy?
another situation.
okay.
Was that the young guy, Mike?
Yeah. Yeah, he's like 23 years old.
Yeah, the youngest they've ever had for that.
When I was 23 years old, you would not have wanted me on a school board or anything like that, so.
He has eye-opening information too.
Yeah, he's a good, sharp guy.
Yes.
Yeah, so I am meeting with the sustainability board, a couple of members, to just try and figure out what we could do in order to help recycle wastewater. I think that's maybe the thing that we can tackle right now, that we will need to, because of the drought, the current drought, we're gonna have droughts in the future. If we can manage our water system better, even in the good times, that saves up for the times that we're going through now. So I am gonna follow through on that one. That's one thing I'm gonna try and make a priority this next year, is to figure out a plan to help with that. I'd love to get a purple pipe all over the city, so that way we can water lawns that way, or we can do some of the city stuff that way, but also work with businesses to increase that to them, because it helps with them financially as well. It doesn't cost as much for them to use that water as it does regular water, so we'll be following through on that one a little bit as well. The mayor talked about the MAC. Again, Thanksgiving is the goal to have it up and running. We've talked about it in the past, getting the water sprinklers in there. That's the main goal right now, the main obstacle I think we have. But it seems like we're on good track to get the emergency shelter open by Thanksgiving. By next April or so is when we're gonna have it fully operational as far as the wraparound services, getting people into housing, having addiction counselors there, having home care there to help people go through mental health crises. So we had a meeting today with some of the smaller providers, because while we got the general outline of it figured out, we need to find everybody's place. So there's some good news. The Lord's Diner, they already do, feed homeless people along the Broadway corridor, and we also have one down in outside of Plainview. But we're talking to them about providing food for it. That's a $400,000 a year ask right there. So that's how we're trying to look at filling some of the gaps, working with a lot of the providers to find out what they can do and what they can help us with. we did allocate some ARPA funding to help run it for the first 2 years, and beyond that, the models that we look at, like in San Antonio, there's a little bit of government money in there, but most of that's private sector money. So that's the goal, is to hopefully get the private sector involved in donating to help running the shelter going forward after the first 2 years of falling mostly on the city, and that's ARPA funding that we're using.
I got a question. I know, so the Mayor's Youth Council, we just kind of decided our issue groups for the year, and we have a homelessness issue group, and I don't know how involved, because I know that's gonna be kind of difficult, especially like dealing with more private issues like that. I don't know. I was just kind of thinking on behalf of our issue group, because I know they want to work with the MAC, because that's what it's called.
Yeah.
But or like, I was just wondering, like, so I can take it back to when we have our meeting next week, some stuff to think about, because I know that can be kind of difficult, especially like just starting off. Probably can't just have anybody up in there. I'm not really sure how they wanted to work with you guys, but since this is a new resource that's specifically targeting the issue that they also want to advocate and raise awareness for. So I was just wondering, like, if you had any kind of ideas of how they could be helpful to you
The
guys in some ways.
Two off the top of my head. One is we will need a lot of volunteers to help with things like we'll have kennels there, for animals, so walking animals, helping cleaning the kennels, laundry. There will be volunteer opportunities like that. The second thing off the top of my head is a number of high schoolers are also going to like WSU Tech to further their education before they're out of high school. If they're in the healthcare related field, there will be internship opportunities as well, so they can get some real world experience while going through their education in the healthcare fields. So those are the two off the top of my head, and if I can think of any more, I'll make sure that.
No, that sounds great, because I know also like, cause I also go to East, and I know East pushes really hard for WSU Tech. Yeah, I know we have a lot of people that are in like, I think it's like I forgot what it's called, but like they're doing like, they're starting to get their nursing like certifications and things like that.
Pathways.
Yeah, pathways, yes. So that's pretty cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, I'll keep that in mind. Jared, did you have somebody?
My question completely different than all that. I have several associates downtown around the Delano area and about the parking thing, what's gonna happen?
I mean, it's still getting put together. Like I said, I voted no on the parking thing. Whenever they ask me my opinion on it, I know there's a change, but you know, I've talked to you guys about my ideas for what to do to make it a little more manageable. I haven't heard anything here recently. We did have another update at the beginning of the month at council. Beginning of last month, I believe, so that might be worth a look if you wanna go look at it. Nothing necessarily
Like the hour
solid.
come and go or something and start charging after.
There's been ideas about giving the first hour for free, and then charging after that. How do you enforce that? That's kind of the question there, but I think with the drive-by, license readers or whatever that they do, the meter baits.
Meter base, that's all.
Yeah, well, we can't do that anymore.
I know.
Yeah, for some reason, we can't chalk it off.
I know.
So yeah, no big updates yet on the parking plan. Again, I voted against it. I cannot say that enough, so. We had some good, we've had some good results from the violence interrupter program that we've been doing. As a matter of fact, if you go back to the last workshop, they will talk to, they came up and presented and talked about some of the interactions they've had. They're working with WPD to go out to the high schools, especially during like high school football games. There's usually a lot of fights and violence to begin this year. But they go out to these football games and they've actually started to work with a lot of kids who have the conflicts and have quashed a lot of beats going on. They also had a pretty good turnout. They had a couple of a little less than 20 youths who have been having conflict with each other that often escalates into violence. And they actually got them to do a truce, and so far that truce has held. The number of murders is down in Wichita last time I checked, about 20% from this time last year. So a lot of the violence is starting to occur. I like to think, you know, it's programs like the Violence Interrupters and maybe some of the unity marches, but there's a lot more that goes into it than just that. So we gotta keep working together as a community. I know we're gonna try and work with the Mayor's Youth Council a little more on the unity and the community marches, because they are able to really understand what's going on in their own schools better than somebody who's been out of high school for almost 25 years. Yeah.
And just to add on to that, the last Unity March, we had just started like our session, so it's kind of hard to get some of the council out there. And then unfortunately, I had to go out of town with my family that weekend, so that kind of sucked. But like moving forward, especially since we have like we have broad names right now for our issue group, but we have a violence issue group. And so we want to really help get like that issue group and the broader like Mayor's Youth Council involved with the Unity marches. But I was gonna say, like, if any of you guys have any other like community programs or community groups that like we could get involved with, help support their initiatives or raise awareness, advocacy, I would definitely take that to pass on to our issue group chairs. Thanks.
Maybe
And same
sometimes
thing
we'll-
with the homelessness or anything like that, yeah, I'll take it.
And maybe we'll try and organize a meeting with you guys with the Violence Interrupters, since they are on your guys' schools, so.
Doing my youth mayoral duties good today.
District breakfast will be next Saturday,
Not the upcoming one.
not this upcoming Saturday, but next Saturday, 9:30. At the Christian Faith Center. Reggie, who was here earlier, will be our speaker, and he'll be talking about some other things alongside with Platt Park, but other park projects that we have going, including the firefighter memorial that we're trying to designate South Broadway, Lincoln Park as a state's firefighter memorial. And on that note, this Sunday, on the sixth, this upcoming Sunday at 1:30 is the ceremony for the fallen firefighters. It's always a really solemn ceremony. Got the bagpipes out there and everything. We did lose 2 firefighters statewide this year, including one here in Wichita. It won't be until next year that their names are put on the memorial. But again, I urge you guys to come out. They block off Broadway, they giant flag. And we'll also hopefully have some information regarding the potential firefighter memorial there too. So we're trying to work on some drawings and some just some renderings right now, and just trying to get people connected, sign up for a newsletter, but that way, when there are opportunities to come up for a sponsorship or advocacy or anything like that, everybody can know and see what the fundraising is on and whatnot. So with that is all I have, and I'll open it up to you guys to throw some food at me, and you know.
You brought the cookies.
I brought the cookies.
Yeah, we're just talking about is at the Firefighter Museum up there on Broadway,
Yep, Lincoln Park.
just outside the fire station.
Yeah, and then it's a big plan. There's gonna be equipment, firefighter themed equipment. We've seen a few other playgrounds around the country that we're basing that off of. Extending the wall, securing the facility, so gating it off. Maybe a splash pad that has a firefighter spraying the kids with the hose, and I mean, it's gonna be pretty neat. And again, a little background. Topeka is technically designated the firefighter memorial, the state firefighter memorial. 23 years ago, they designated that. They raised $18,000 and they haven't done anything in 23 years. So I do have to work with the state legislature to get it designated. I've been working with a couple of the legislators on that, including my brother, who's really helping out with that. So God willing, this time next year, we will be breaking ground on the firefighter memorial. So, yeah.
Is that gonna be in Lincoln Park?
Yeah, same place there.
That's not a safe place after dark.
That's part of why we're trying to secure it as well. Provide a little more security for the neighborhood there.
I mean, no means we create the negativity, but I've been there.
Right, yeah, we're
Oh,
cognizant.
you're kind.
And we're also hoping that the Mac
Actually,
helps.
Mike was there with the mayor, but they had breakfast one day.
Yeah, and we're hoping that the Mac helps with a lot of the safety issues as well.
That's a water source for a lot of the people, so they utilize that on a regular basis.
Right.
No disrespect to whoever's having to use it.
Yeah, we still gotta work. Any other questions or?
I just have a little, this thought keeps creeping through my mind when talking about drought and stuff. We had a drought not that many eons ago.
Yeah, just about a little more than a decade.
Right. Have we not had 200-year floods since then? Yeah. Comes and it goes. Right now, it's not a real good time.
No,
But the flood's not a real good time either. Fortunately, we have that big dish.
It's dry.
Yeah, absolutely dry. But I remember when the water was up in the door of the Warfield Theater. Before that.
Our ceiling ones, though, we.
I understand.
The Orpheum.
Colorado
Rock
whole
this time of
rid
year,
all.
too.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know.
We got all sorts of shows coming on this next 2 months.
We're clear about this year, right?
What's that, Mike?
Is it?
Looking for a motion to adjourn?
It's a 2000.
It's always appropriate.
No, it's an RS.
Okay, see if you can decode that license plate.
All right, we got a motion to adjourn on the floor.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All
I had to have help with that.
Aye.
Hi.
Sounds like you guys have.
all that.
It's good to see you guys.
0280.
Hope to see you guys here in the next couple of weeks. Please come out to the firefighter thing or come out to different breakfast. If not, please stay safe and I hope to see you guys again after Halloween.
Come out to Stearman's for the Jeep thing this week.